The key to an under eye concealer routine is to enhance the eye area. So once we get to a certain age, the more we try to want to cover up the protrusions that we have naturally under our eye or the creases that we have in the corners of our eyes. But adding more concealer and adding more product inadvertently just causes us to accentuate these lines and accentuate the protrusions. Of course, if you add a lighter color to any bump or puffiness you have under your eye, it's going to bring that forward. So that's what we want to avoid, especially in an everyday makeup look. Now, every once in a while, you want to glam up and you have the extra time to spend sort of doing the whole eye, concealing, recontouring, putting the shadows back in. But for an everyday eye, I highly recommend just using the simple technique that I'm going to show you. So I'm just going to use a little bit of product that's a little bit lighter than my skin tone, and I'm going to apply it with my finger. You can use a brush or a sponge, whatever you want. I'm going to apply it with my finger just to the corner of my eye. And I'm going to bring it down just a bit. I'm not going to swath it over, from corner to edge. I'm not going to go around the eye. I'm not going to create the hummingbird look or the patchwork quilt look that's going around. I'm just going to dot it in here. And then I'm going to use my finger to kind of remove some of the product, because one of the issues that we have is we end up having too much product, and that ends up caking once we set it and not looking very nice. The other key is not to go beyond the iris of the eye. If you bring it out here, even if you have a little bit of dark circle under here, if you continue to bring it out, you're going to accentuate any of the puffies that you have under here, and you're going to start getting into the creased area. So just work it slowly into the corner of the eye. And like I said, any product you have. Now I'm going to actually take a little bit of product off this lid because I have a protruding tear duct, and that's not going to give a nice look. Again, avoid any of your puffy areas. I'm going to show you how to work around that tear duct in a little bit, but it's a little bit more complicated and sort of beyond the scope of today's kind of natural, easy breezy look. Okay, I'm going to do the inner corner of my other eye. This eye tends to be a little bit darker, a little further down, so I'm going to bring it down just a little bit further, but just focusing on the inner eye to give a really brightened effect. And you can also use a brush to blend that out if you want to. Now the typical application would be to continue to bring the concealer all the way out to the corner and use any product that you have left over the mobile lid. And I'm going to tell you why, and actually you can see as I'm applying this, why that really doesn't look great for an everyday natural look. As you can see, that's made my eye much smaller. And then I'm going to have to go back in and spend more time correcting it by putting some shadows under here and giving it a more natural look. As you can see, this eye is brighter, it's more open, and has a more natural look. And I haven't gone beyond the iris of the eye. Okay, so the next step is getting any powder that you want and using your damp beauty blender or a sponge to set it. If you set it, it will stay, but you don't want to use too much product. It's just a very small amount on a damp beauty blender, and you're just going to press it into the corner. Again, not bringing it out to the edge of your eye where the powder is going to settle in your creases. And I'm not going to bring it up too high on this side because again, I have that protruding tear duct. I'll go ahead and set this eye as I normally would for a more full eye look. But as you can see, this eye is already starting to look a little bit smaller, and this eye is open and bright. The next mistake, now that you've set it, the next mistake I feel like I make for an everyday eye is to tightline. If I tightline under this eye, it once again closes up the eye. It makes it smaller and doesn't give it that sort of wide-eyed, sort of bright, natural, everyday look. So I tend not to tightline, especially because I have kind of small, tiny little eyes. The other thing is just using a bit of mascara to open up the eye, and not too heavy for an everyday look, just one coat. Even things up over here. I hope that's looking good. I can't really see very well. I hope that's looking good. So you can actually see how applying the concealer all around this particular eye, that my left eye, sort of squishes the eye smaller. And whereas this, my right eye, is open, it's bright, and it just has that little bit of concealer throughout the day. It's not going to end up crease and causing me issues on the outside of my eye. And it's just sort of a natural look. Now, you're going to say, well, what about, the dark spots, or the smudges I have under my eyes? You can correct that just with your foundation. Later on, I'm going to use a CC cream, and I'm just going to put it all over my face and then just pat it in under my eye. That will be enough for an everyday look. Just using my natural foundation. Sorry, I might have said concealer. My foundation that I'm going to use for the day, just a CC cream. And that will give me enough coverage and not end up sinking into the lines on the outside of my face and giving me those creases that are inevitable. It's kind of a trade-off. If you end up taking your concealer all the way out to the edge, then you're just going to have those creases. It's unavoidable because that part of our eye is mobile and it just creases throughout the day as we smile and move our faces. So it's kind of a bit of a trade-off at this point. Now, I was going to show you how I get around this sort of protrusion of my tear trough. If I wanted to cover that up, I would have to come in with a really fine brush and kind of come in around it and not over it, and then blend it out. It gets a little tricky because it is such a fine area, but I want to avoid. I'll probably end up having to put a little bit of powder if I really want to not have that puffy little bag stick out. I would have to end up putting a little bit of a dark shadow right in that area. But the idea is to go around the puffiness as opposed to doing the whole mobile lid. And then you can take it off a little bit with your finger, and I'll blend it in just a little bit more, trying to avoid that puffy bag. So I think that looks pretty good. Like I said, I would probably put a little bit of just sort of natural colored powder or a little bit of my CC cream foundation right over that area just so it's not popping forward. So that's kind of how you deal with any puffiness. If you had any puffiness under the eyes, I'm not going to worry about mine today, but if you had any puffiness under the eye that kind of protruded out toward here, you would just work your way around that and then blend it in, but don't take a big swath of concealer and cover it because it's just going to pop out. So I hope that's provided you with a few tips and tricks for just a natural concealer look, and I hope you can incorporate this into your 5-minute makeup routine. I've enjoyed kind of scouring all the social media techniques to try and bring you just a condensed version, something that can work for you every single day to give you a nice bright eye that's natural looking, that's easy, and then you can fit into your daily routine. Take care, everybody. I appreciate you joining me. As always, like, subscribe, comment if you've gotten any benefit out of this. And if you have any tips and tricks that you'd like to share with our community, pop them in the comments below. I love the conversation that goes on down there. And as I said, have a beautiful day and good luck with this technique. I hope you find it helpful. Take care, everybody. Bye.